The shadow of humanity's first strike. The Arcadia glided silently through the vast emptiness of space, a lone sentinel in the cold reaches of the cosmos. The ship, humanity's crowning achievement in warship technology, moved effortlessly through the Arcturus expanse. Captain Imani Klein stood on the bridge, her eyes fixed on the holographic map that displayed the quiet rhythm of nearby star systems. The crew worked in harmony, their movements precise, their focus unwavering. The Arcadia was humanity's first true warship, built for a single purpose: to protect the innocent and show the galaxy that humanity would no longer sit idle in the dark corners of the universe. For decades, Earth had observed the galactic turmoil from the shadows, silently watching as countless species fought for power, their battles leaving untold suffering in their wake. Humanity, however, had remained cautious, gathering intelligence, advancing their technologies, and preparing for the inevitable day when they would step onto the galactic stage. That day had arrived. "Captain, we've picked up something," Lieutenant Cassie Torres called from her console, her voice calm but tinged with urgency. Klein stepped forward, her hand resting on the edge of the tactical display. A small blip appeared on the screen, barely noticeable against the backdrop of the stars. But the analysis was clear. It was not a natural anomaly. "Identify it," Klein said, her voice firm. "It's a ship, Captain," Torres replied, her fingers flying over the controls. "It's big, too big for any known species we've encountered. It's moving fast, and it's not broadcasting any signals." Imani Klein's heart rate increased ever so slightly. A silent ship meant trouble. The Arcadia was on a reconnaissance mission, but this unexpected development could signal the beginning of something far larger, something dangerous. "Can we determine its origin?" she asked, her gaze not leaving the screen. "Not yet, but its trajectory suggests it's heading directly for the neutral zone," Torres reported. "It's possibly preparing to invade." The neutral zone, a place where no species had claimed dominance, was sacred in galactic politics. An invasion here would be a declaration of war, a violation of centuries of peace. But why would an unknown species risk such a bold move? "Full speed ahead," Klein ordered, her voice filled with resolve. "We'll investigate. Prepare for possible engagement." The Arcadia powered up its quantum engines, its sleek form slicing through the void with deadly precision. The crew was ready. Humanity's warship had been tested in simulations, but this would be their first real test. No one could have predicted what they would find. Minutes passed, but to Klein, they felt like hours. The Arcadia grew closer to the unknown ship, and the tension on the bridge was palpable. A strange energy seemed to radiate from the alien vessel, like a dark shadow spreading across the stars. The closer they got, the more the ship seemed to warp and shift, its edges flickering in and out of the surrounding space. It was as though the ship itself existed outside the normal boundaries of time and space. "Commander, we're receiving a transmission," Lieutenant Torres announced, her voice steady despite the anxiety creeping into her mind. "Put it through," Klein said, her hand gripping the armrest of her chair. This was it, the moment that would change everything. The main view screen flickered to life, revealing an alien face, its skin the color of molten silver. The creature's eyes glowed with an unsettling hue, like two burning embers in the dark. It stared back at them, its expression unreadable. The transmission was silent at first, the alien simply observing them, as if measuring their worth. Then, in a voice that sent a chill down Klein's spine, it spoke. "We are the G-Theory," the alien said, its words a mix of mechanical and organic tones. "You are not welcome here, human." Klein's heart raced. The G-Theory, a species humanity had only heard of in whispers, rumors of a highly advanced, ruthless civilization that had conquered countless worlds across the galaxy. But they had never made direct contact with Earth. Klein steadied herself. "We are here to protect the peace," she said, her voice firm. "We've come to stop your aggression. If you wish to avoid conflict, You will leave now." The Jetheri's lips curled into a smile, though it wasn't one of kindness. "You are not in a position to make demands, human. You are trespassing on our territory. This world belongs to us now." The transmission cut abruptly, and before Klein could respond, the alien ship's weapons powered up, sending a surge of energy through the Arcadia's shields. The battle had begun. Klein's eyes narrowed as she turned to her crew. "Ready the weapons. Return fire." As the Arcadia powered up its own advanced weapon systems, Klein knew that this was just the beginning. Humanity had always been a small player in the galactic theater. But now, with the Arcadia as their spearhead, they were about to show the galaxy that they would no longer be pushed around. The first alien encounter had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same again. Humanity's first strike. The Jetheri response. The Arcadia shuddered under the impact of the alien weapon, the shields flickering but holding. Captain Imani Klein's eyes were fixed on the tactical screen, analyzing the incoming threat. The Jetheri ship was formidable, its energy cannons slicing through space with lethal precision. The alien ship's sheer size and advanced weaponry were overwhelming, but the Arcadia was no ordinary ship. It was humanity's best, a testament to Earth's determination and ingenuity. Status report. Klein barked, her voice sharp, focused. "Shields at 82%, Captain." Lieutenant Cassie Torres responded quickly, her fingers flying across the console. "The Jetheri ship is charging another blast." Imani's mind raced as she assessed their options. They couldn't afford to just defend. They had to act decisively. Humanity had been waiting for this moment for decades, the moment when they would prove to the galaxy that they were no longer the silent observers, but a force to be reckoned with. "Bring the Arcadia around," Klein ordered. "I want full weapon systems online. Let's show them what humanity is capable of." As the ship pivoted gracefully through the vast emptiness of space, the crew sprang into action. The Arcadia had been built with every contingency in mind, a ship that combined cutting-edge human technology with the lessons learned from years of watching the galaxy's most dangerous species. Its weaponry wasn't just powerful, it was designed to counter the advanced tactics of the galaxy's most formidable enemies. "Quantum missiles ready, Captain." Lieutenant Nathan Cross, the weapons officer, called out. "Fire when ready," Klein commanded, her hand steady as the ship's control systems responded to her every instruction. A sudden flash lit up the view screen, followed by a deep resonating hum. The Arcadia's quantum missiles erupted from their launchers, streaking toward the Jetheri ship. They were precise, hyper-accelerated, and designed to bypass even the most advanced defensive systems. The missiles were humanity's first true weapon of intergalactic power, the culmination of years of secret research and development. The Jetheri ship, seemingly unaware of the danger, attempted to maneuver, but the missiles were too fast. In a blinding flash, one of the ship's energy shields collapsed, sending a shockwave rippling across the void. The alien vessel groaned in protest, its massive hull shuddering from the hit. But the Jetheri weren't so easily defeated. The alien ship responded with brutal force, launching a barrage of energy blasts that scorched the Arcadia's outer hull. The Arcadia buckled under the onslaught, its shields flickering dangerously. On the bridge, the crew braced themselves, the sound of alarms filling the air. "Damage report," Klein demanded, her voice barely rising above the chaos. "We've sustained significant damage to the aft port side," Lieutenant Cross reported, his voice steady despite the pressure. "But the shields are holding. We can take another hit if we need to." Klein nodded. The Arcadia was built to withstand a beating, but she knew that they couldn't keep trading blows with the Jetheri forever. They needed to finish this. Now. "Launch the EMP pulse," Klein commanded. "Disrupt their systems. We'll take the advantage." The electromagnetic pulse, EMP, was one of humanity's most secretive innovations, a weapon designed to disable even the most sophisticated alien technology. The pulse was fired, sending a burst of energy across the battlefield. The G-Theory ship's systems faltered for a moment, a sudden, eerie silence falling over the battlefield. The alien ship's weapons powered down, and its engines sputtered, leaving it vulnerable for the first time in this encounter. "Now's our chance," Klein shouted. "Firing torpedoes," Cross called out. The Arcadia's torpedoes launched with deadly accuracy, streaking toward the G-Theory ship's now exposed weak points. The explosions lit up space, the distant stars illuminating the fiery impact. The G-Theory vessel groaned under the pressure, massive sections of its hull splitting open as internal systems exploded. The mighty ship, once so terrifying, was beginning to crumble. But Klein knew better than to get complacent. The G-Theory were not an enemy that would go down easily. She kept her eyes fixed on the view screen, ready for anything. And then, just as the Arcadia readied for another strike, a voice cut through the chaos, cold and calm. "This is not over, human." The transmission came through, crackling with static. The G-Theory commander, his face, an unsettling blend of insect-like features and mechanical enhancements, appeared on the screen once again, his glowing eyes narrowing in hatred. "You will regret interfering in our plans," the G-Theory commander hissed. "This galaxy is ours, and you, human, are nothing but a fleeting moment in its history." Imani's heart raced, but her face remained stoic. She had seen threats before, both on Earth and in the stories of other species, and she knew one thing for certain: humanity was not going to stand down. Not this time. "We may be small," Klein said, her voice steady and filled with quiet resolve, "but we are not powerless. We will defend those who cannot defend themselves. And you, G-Theory, will learn that the hard way." With that, the Arcadia powered up its remaining systems, ready for the next round of battle. The G-Theory ship was heavily damaged, but Klein knew that their fight was far from over. This was the beginning of something far larger, a war that would define humanity's place in the stars. And she would be damned if Earth's first intergalactic mission ended in anything but victory. The battle was just beginning, but the galaxy would soon learn that humanity's resilience, ingenuity, and sheer will to survive would not be so easily extinguished. The turning point. Humanity's defiance. The Arcadia hovered in the cold emptiness of space, its damaged hull gleaming faintly against the backdrop of distant stars. The G-Theory ship, though heavily damaged, was still operational. Its weapons were offline, but its engines had reignited, and the alien vessel was slowly pulling away, retreating from the battlefield. Captain Imani Klein stood tall on the bridge, her eyes locked on the view screen. The tension in the air was palpable. The crew of the Arcadia was battered but unbroken. They had dealt a powerful blow to the G-Theory, but the victory felt incomplete. She knew the G-Theory were regrouping. They had tasted defeat, but they were not the kind of enemy to give up so easily. "We can't let them escape," Klein said, her voice low but filled with urgency. "We need to finish this." Lieutenant Cross, his face still tense from the earlier battle, nodded and quickly typed commands into his console. "Captain, their shields are down to 25%. If we push now, we can disable their engines for good." Klein turned toward the crew, her mind working through their options. "Prepare the fusion cannons. Focus fire on their main reactor. We can't afford to let them mourn the rest of their fleet." "Understood, Captain," Cross responded, his fingers a blur as he manipulated the controls. The Arcadia's weapons powered up with a familiar hum, its fusion cannons charging. In the control center, there was no need for words. Every crew member knew their role. Their mission was simple: protect the weak, defend the innocent, and show the galaxy that humanity would no longer be a passive observer. But as the Arcadia prepared for its next strike, something unexpected happened. The G-Theory ship began to pulse with energy, and a bright light flared from its core. At first, it looked like an ordinary power surge. But then, the Arcadia's sensors picked up something that sent a wave of dread through the crew. "Captain," Torres said, her voice rising in alarm, "there. They're activating a self-destruct sequence. Klein's heart skipped a beat. The G-Theory had already shown their ruthlessness, but this was a new level of desperation. The idea of taking themselves down with them, of becoming nothing more than a blazing beacon of destruction in the void of space, was a tactic they'd seen before, but only from species that were far more dangerous than anything they had encountered on Earth. "How much time do we have?" Klein demanded, her tone sharp, forcing herself to think clearly. 30 seconds, Torres replied. "If we don't disable their core now, they'll take us with them." "Full speed ahead," Klein ordered, her grip tightening around the armrest of her chair. "We're not giving them that chance." The Arcadia surged forward, its engines roaring to life. The fusion cannons fired in rapid succession. Each shot a beam of concentrated energy that tore through space with the force of 1,000 storms. The G-Theory ship, now almost completely disabled, tried in vain to dodge. Its movements were sluggish, almost pitiful compared to its earlier power. The Arcadia's shots struck true, hitting the G-Theory ship's reactor and causing a chain reaction of explosions. For a moment, the screen went white, and the entire bridge crew braced for the inevitable shockwave. But as the light faded, there was only silence. The Arcadia had narrowly avoided the blast radius, and the G-Theory ship was now nothing more than a drifting wreck, its energy signature fading into nothingness. "Is it over?" Cross asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The last few minutes had felt like an eternity. Klein looked at the wreckage, her gaze cold and calculating. "Not yet. The G-Theory are a species that thrives on conflict. This victory, as sweet as it is, will only fuel their anger. They won't forget what we've done here." Torres nodded in agreement. "We've made an enemy today, Captain. A powerful one. But we've made a friend too," Klein said, turning her eyes to the communications officer. "Bring up the Meridian ship's status. They were the ones we came to protect." The screen flickered, and the image of the Meridian vessel appeared. It was a small, peaceful trading ship, now safe from the clutches of the G-Theory. The ship's energy signature was weak, but it was stable. "We've received word from the Meridian commander," Torres reported. "They're offering their thanks, Captain. They said they've never seen such strength in an unknown species." Klein allowed herself a brief, satisfied smile. "Humanity doesn't need to be the strongest in the galaxy, but we will be the most resilient." Her thoughts were interrupted by an incoming transmission from Fleet Command. The channel opened, and Admiral Victor Harris' face appeared on the screen. His expression was grim, but there was a hint of pride in his eyes. "Captain Klein, you and your crew have done the impossible," Admiral Harris began. "The G-Theory have been a growing threat for decades, and you've made sure the galaxy knows that humanity will not sit idly by while others suffer." Klein nodded. "It's only the beginning, sir. We've just shown them a fraction of what we can do. We'll need every advantage if we are to survive what's coming." Admiral Harris' expression hardened. "I agree. Intelligence reports suggest the G-Theory will rally. You may have won this battle, Captain, but the war is just beginning. Humanity's true test is still ahead." Klein's eyes narrowed, the weight of his words settling heavily on her shoulders. "Then we'll be ready." As the communication ended, Klein turned to her crew. The battle was won, but the war for humanity's place in the stars had only just begun. She knew this encounter with the G-Theory was only the first of many. There would be more battles, more challenges. But humanity had proven something critical today. They could fight. They could win. And in the face of overwhelming odds, they would not back down. "We are humanity," Klein said, her voice steady. "And this galaxy belongs to us as much as it belongs to anyone." And so, with the wreckage of the G-Theory ship drifting in the dark, the Arcadia turned once again toward the unknown, ready to face whatever came next. Because one thing was certain: humanity's first strike had echoed across the stars, and the universe would never forget the name of Earth. The galactic repercussions, humanity's message. The Arcadia drifted through space, leaving behind the shattered remnants of the HFY warship. It was a moment of triumph for humanity, but it was also a moment of reflection. The battle had been won, but Klein knew that the true impact of their actions was only beginning to unfold. They had sent a clear message to the galaxy. Humanity was no longer an insignificant species, hiding in the dark corners of space. They were a force to be reckoned with. Captain Imani Klein stood at the bridge, her hands clasped behind her back as she stared out at the endless void. The stars seemed colder now, more distant. She could feel the weight of the galaxy pressing in on her. This victory had not only made the HFY an enemy, it had marked humanity as a new player on the galactic stage, and every species, friend or foe, was now watching. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the Meridian homeworld," Torres announced, breaking the silence. "It's high priority." Klein turned and nodded. "Patch it through." The screen flickered to life, revealing the familiar face of Commander Terran Lox, leader of the Meridian fleet. Her skin, a soft shade of purple, radiated calm, but her eyes betrayed the deep concern she felt. "Captain Klein, we owe you and your crew a debt that we may never be able to repay," Lox said, her voice steady but laden with gratitude. "The HFY were poised to wipe us out. We would have been another conquest, another destroyed world in their wake, if not for your intervention." Klein inclined her head slightly. "It was our duty to protect you, Commander. You're not alone in this galaxy." Locke's expression softened, but then her eyes flickered with a new urgency. "You must understand, Captain, that the HFY are just the tip of the iceberg. There are factions in the galaxy far more dangerous than them, and your actions today have not gone unnoticed. I fear the HFY may be the least of your worries now." Klein's mind raced, but she kept her composure. "What do you mean, Commander?" Lox took a deep breath, as though weighing her words carefully. "There are power brokers in the galaxy, ancient civilizations that see any challenge to their dominance as an act of war. The HFY, while powerful, are only one faction of a much larger empire that spans far beyond this sector. And you, humans, are now marked." Klein's eyes narrowed. "Marked? By who?" "A coalition of ancient powers. The Trinair Collective, the Ysilian Dominion, and others, have been monitoring the rise of your species for some time," Lox explained, her tone now filled with a quiet dread. "They have no tolerance for newcomers. They've never had to deal with a species like yours before. You've shown them something they were not prepared for: humanity's ability to fight back, to challenge them." Klein's mind was spinning. She had always suspected that humanity's arrival on the galactic stage would have consequences, but this was far beyond anything she had anticipated. These factions, ancient, powerful empires, were not the kind of enemies Earth could afford to face head-on. "We've made an enemy of the HFY. What else could we have done?" Klein asked, her voice tight with the weight of this new reality. "Survived," Lox said simply. "But now that the challenge has been thrown, they will respond. Their retribution will not be swift. It will be calculated. They will begin by targeting your allies. They will destroy everything you've built before coming for you directly." Klein exhaled slowly, trying to process the gravity of the situation. She had always known that humanity's rise would be met with opposition, but she hadn't considered the full scope of what that meant. The galaxy was far from peaceful, and humanity had just made itself a target. "Thank you for the warning, Commander," Klein replied, her mind already racing through potential strategies. "We'll take every precaution. But we won't back down. Humanity is ready for whatever comes next." "I hope you are," Lox said, her face darkening. "We may be too small to fight, but we'll stand by your side when the time comes. The Meridian will help you defend your people, Captain. But remember, you'll need more than just firepower to win this fight." The transmission cut off, and the bridge fell into a heavy silence. Klein turned away from the screen and looked toward her crew, her expression hardened with resolve. They had been prepared for many things: an enemy, a battle, a war. but nothing had prepared them for the weight of what lay ahead. The Jutheri were just the beginning. What they had unleashed by striking at the heart of the Jutheri war machine was far more dangerous than they could have ever anticipated. "Captain," Lieutenant Cross spoke up from his station, "we've detected multiple incoming vessels. They're not from the Jutheri, but they're coming from the same direction. They're heading toward the Meridian system." Klein's stomach tightened. "Are they the ones the commander warned us about?" Cross checked the readings again, then nodded grimly. "It looks like it. I don't know who they are, but they're too close to be a coincidence." Imani Klein's eyes burned with determination. The time for caution was over. Humanity had just become a player in a much larger game, and if they wanted to survive, they would need to take the initiative. "Get us to the Meridian system," Klein ordered, her voice unwavering. "It's time to show the galaxy that humanity's strength isn't just in our weapons. It's in our will to survive." The Arcadia's engines powered up, and the ship turned toward the unknown. As they made their way deeper into enemy territory, Klein couldn't shake the feeling that their actions had set something irreversible in motion. But one thing was certain: humanity was not going to be silenced. They would fight, and they would fight with everything they had. As the Arcadia sped toward the Meridian system, the crew prepared for whatever was coming next. The galaxy was vast, and humanity was small, but they were not afraid. They had proven that they could hold their own, and now the universe would see what they were truly capable of. The edge of the unknown. A new threat emerges. The Arcadia was now in the dark depths of uncharted space, speeding toward the Meridian system. The vastness of the galaxy stretched out in every direction, an endless expanse of stars and nebulae. The silence aboard the ship was heavy, broken only by the soft hum of the engines and the occasional beeping of the ship's systems. It was a quiet before the storm, a brief moment of peace before the galaxy's true test would begin. Captain Imani Klein stood at the helm, her gaze fixed on the view beyond the ship's reinforced glass. Her mind was racing. The warning from Commander Locke echoed in her thoughts. Humanity had made its first major move on the galactic stage, but they had no idea what they were really up against. The ancient powers, the ones that had ruled the galaxy for eons, were now aware of humanity's presence, and they weren't going to just sit back and watch. The Arcadia was a formidable ship, but it was only one vessel. Humanity was far from prepared for the scale of the challenges that lay ahead. "Captain," Lieutenant Cross's voice broke through her thoughts. "We've just detected 3 ships entering the Meridian system. Their signatures are unlike anything we've encountered before." Klein straightened, her heart racing. "Describe them." Cross glanced at his screen, his fingers flying across the controls. "They're large, massive, in fact. They've bypassed our stealth systems. They're headed directly for Meridian's homeworld." Klein's stomach dropped. They were already too close to warn the Meridian. "Can we get a visual?" Torres, seated at the communications console, manipulated the controls. The main view screen flickered, and 3 colossal vessels appeared, drifting through the black expanse like shadows in the night. They were sleek and angular, their dark hulls absorbing the light of distant stars. The sheer size of them was staggering, each one easily 5 times the size of the Arcadia. They looked almost alien in design, as if they were built for nothing more than pure intimidation. The edges of the ships were lined with pulsating lights, and Klein could almost feel the malevolent energy radiating from them. Cross's voice was tight with apprehension. "These ships, they're not just ships. They have weapons systems we can't even begin to understand." "Keep the Arcadia on course," Klein ordered, her voice steady, even though the unease gnawing at her insides was palpable. "Send a distress signal to the Meridian fleet. Let them know what's coming. We'll have to engage them ourselves." A moment of silence followed as the crew processed her orders. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and outmatched. But Klein wasn't about to back down. Not when the stakes were so high. "We're not here to fight alone," she added, turning toward Torres. "Activate the emergency fleet call. We need backup. Immediately." Torres nodded, her fingers moving swiftly across her console. Sending out the signal now. It'll take time for the fleets to respond, but we should have some reinforcements within the hour. Good, Klein said, but her voice was tinged with doubt. An hour was too long. The Meridian system couldn't hold off an invasion of this scale for that long. Prepare the ship for combat. We need to give the Meridian every chance to escape. As the crew scrambled to ready the ship, Klein's mind went back to the message from Commander Locke's. These weren't the G-Theory. These ships were different. Larger, more powerful, and with technology far beyond anything humanity had. These weren't just invaders. They were conquerors, and they had the power to sweep entire systems into submission. The Arcadia was outmatched, but Klein wasn't about to let the galaxy's first real test of humanity's strength end in failure. Lieutenant Cross, initiate evasive maneuvers, Klein commanded. We're going to need every advantage we can get. The Arcadia lurched as Cross punched in the orders. The ship shifted to one side, narrowly avoiding a barrage of energy blasts from the alien ships. The weapons fire came from massive turrets, each blast sending ripples through space like thunder. The Arcadia was small and nimble, but it wasn't built to face such overwhelming firepower. We're taking hits, Torres called out, her fingers flying over her console. Shield holding at 70%, but they won't last long. Reinforcements should be arriving soon, Klein reminded them, though her tone betrayed a sense of urgency. Until then, we hold the line. Cross, give us more speed. We need to stay in motion. The Arcadia's engines roared to life, and the ship accelerated into the heart of the battle. As they approached the Meridian system, the massive alien ships loomed larger. Their fire was relentless, the sheer force of their weapons threatening to tear the Arcadia apart. Klein's fingers tightened around the armrest of her command chair as the ship danced through incoming fire, evading blasts by mere meters. Captain, we've got a problem, Cross reported, his voice strained. One of their ships is locking onto us. It's charging some kind of energy weapon. It looks like it's designed to disable our engines. Can we outmaneuver it? Klein asked. Not without taking major damage, Cross replied. We need to fire back. Then fire, Klein ordered without hesitation. Target the lead ship's propulsion. Let's give them something to think about. With a violent shudder, the Arcadia unleashed its full firepower. Quantum torpedoes and plasma bolts tore through space, striking the lead alien ship. The alien ship's shields flared, absorbing much of the damage. But a few shots broke through. Sparks flew from the hull as the enemy ship's energy core sputtered. Direct hit, Torres confirmed, her eyes glued to her screen. They've lost one of their primary reactors. Keep up the pressure, Klein urged. We need to buy time for the Meridian. Cross, do everything you can to keep us from being a target. The alien ships retaliated, focusing their fire on the Arcadia with renewed fury. But Klein's mind was already shifting, calculating their next move. They couldn't win this fight alone, but they could buy enough time for reinforcements to arrive. The tension on the bridge was suffocating. Every moment felt like an eternity as the Arcadia continued to dodge incoming fire, unleashing its own weapons in return. The crew worked as a seamless unit, their training and determination shining through in every action. They knew the stakes. If they failed here, humanity's future in the galaxy would be in jeopardy. Klein's mind raced, but there was no time for doubt. Humanity had fought for its place in the galaxy once before, and they would fight again, no matter the odds. As the alien ships closed in, Klein knew that the true test of humanity's strength had only just begun. But they were ready, and together they would face whatever came next. The clash of titans, humanity's defiance. The Meridian homeworld loomed ahead, a bright blue orb surrounded by the swirling depths of space. The Arcadia was now deep in enemy territory, fighting tooth and nail against a foe whose power and technology seemed leagues beyond anything humanity had ever known. The alien ships, massive and impenetrable, had cornered them in the vastness of the system. Their weapons struck with relentless fury, and each hit sent tremors through the hull of the Arcadia, shaking the crew to their core. Captain Imani Klein stood firm at the bridge, her fists clenched at her sides as the battle raged around her. Sweat trickled down her brow, but her expression remained hard, unyielding. They had come too far to back down now. Humanity had made its mark on the galaxy, and if the cost of that mark was a fight to the death, then so be it. Shields are down to 40%, Captain. Tor is called out from her station. We can't take much more of this. Klein's heart raced as she processed the grim news. Their shields were failing. They had already suffered heavy damage, and every moment they spent under fire was another step closer to being overwhelmed. But Klein's gaze remained focused. They could not afford to let fear dictate their next move. Are the Meridian Fleet reinforcements close? Klein asked, her voice cutting through the tension in the air. Cross, hunched over his console, quickly checked the data. Negative, Captain. They're still too far out. At this rate, we won't have the time to hold off these ships. Klein's eyes flashed with steely resolve. We'll make the time. Captain, Lieutenant Cross warned, one of the ships is about to fire its main weapon. The energy readings are off the charts. Klein turned to face the view screen just in time to witness the alien ship's weapons charging. The immense power of the weapon began to swell, its core glowing brighter with each passing second. The light that poured from the weapon was blinding, and Klein instinctively braced herself for the impact. This would be the final blow, the kind of attack that could obliterate their ship in an instant. But then, just as the weapon discharged, something unexpected happened. The Arcadia shuddered violently, throwing the crew off balance. For a brief moment, the screen flickered, an odd distortion in the fabric of space itself. And then, as if guided by an unseen hand, the attack veered off course, blasting harmlessly into empty space. What just happened? Klein demanded, her voice strained from the shock. Cross's fingers flew across his console as he checked the data. Captain, I don't know. It looks like some kind of energy wave. It absorbed the attack. Like a shield, but it wasn't ours. The entire bridge fell silent, the weight of the moment sinking in. The alien ships were still firing, their weapons blazing. But now Klein's mind was racing, trying to process what had just happened. That wasn't a coincidence. It had to be something or someone else intervening. But who? Captain, Torres called out, her voice filled with disbelief. We're picking up an unknown vessel coming in fast. It's heading straight for the enemy ships. Klein's eyes widened as the blip on the radar grew closer. A new ship, smaller than the alien dreadnoughts, but fast and agile, emerged from behind the nearby asteroid belt. It was sleek and dark, designed for stealth and precision. A wave of relief washed over Klein as she realized this was no ordinary vessel. It was a human ship, and it was coming in hot. The new ship opened fire almost immediately, unleashing a barrage of quantum torpedoes that sliced through the alien ship's shields with surgical precision. The enemy warships recoiled as their systems were overwhelmed by the sudden onslaught. The new ship's weapons were unlike anything Klein had ever seen. So advanced, so precise, it was as though the vessel itself was part of the galaxy's greatest hidden arsenal. Are those our people? Klein asked, a mix of hope and disbelief in her voice. Torres scanned the incoming ship's signature and nodded. It's the Vanguard. The reinforcements from Earth have arrived. A wave of relief spread through the bridge crew. They weren't alone anymore. The Vanguard was a flagship, the spearhead of humanity's efforts to extend its influence in the galaxy. This was their first real test against a galactic empire, and the Vanguard had arrived just in time to turn the tide. Get us in position, Klein ordered, her voice regaining its sharp command. We're not out of this yet. The Arcadia swiftly repositioned itself to provide support as the Vanguard continued its assault on the enemy ships. The alien vessels, already reeling from the unexpected intervention, were now in full retreat, their once formidable shields flickering and failing under the human barrage. But Klein wasn't letting up. Humanity's message needed to be clear. They were not just survivors. They were a force. "We've got a clear shot at their engines," Cross called out. "Now's our chance." "Take it," Klein commanded. With a series of precise shots, the Arcadia unleashed its full firepower at the enemy warship's engines. The blast struck true, and with a shudder, the massive ship lost power, its once bright engines sputtering and going dark. The Arcadia followed up with a barrage of anti-ship missiles, sending the disabled alien ship spiraling into the void. The remaining alien ships, now severely damaged and disoriented by the combined onslaught, broke formation and began to flee. For a brief moment, everything was still. The Arcadia and Vanguard floated in the emptiness of space, their weapons still charged and ready, but there was no one left to fight. "We did it," Torres said, a hint of disbelief in her voice. Klein exhaled slowly, her shoulders relaxing for the first time in hours. "For now. But this is only the beginning. We've made a statement today. The galaxy knows humanity's strength. But I'm not naive enough to think we won't face even greater challenges ahead." She turned to face the view screen, where the Meridian homeworld now appeared safe from the immediate threat. But her mind was still racing. The Vanguard's sudden arrival, the unknown energy wave that had absorbed the alien weapon. These were not random events. Someone, or something, had intervened on their behalf. "I'm calling a meeting with Fleet Command," Klein said, her voice resolute. "We need answers. We need to know who or what helped us. This fight isn't over." As the Arcadia and Vanguard continued to patrol the now quiet Meridian system, Klein knew one thing for certain. Humanity had just faced its greatest challenge, and they had come through victorious. But there was more at play here than they had realized. Something larger was watching, and soon they would have to confront it.